And what is going on, everyone? And welcome to another edition of Houston Texans football on Bleacher Report. I am one part of your show, Ruben Calvillo, joined by the man himself, Harley Dugan at TheLead _ at Houston. Mine is 713 Houston Sportcast. First of all, how's it going, Pops?
Doing well, large and in charge apparently in here.
Yeah,
Don't know
yeah,
how it got so bigger on here, but we're making do. We're making do with it. We'll figure it out on the next one.
we got this. We got this, buddy. We just want to give a quick shout out to Bleacher Report for allowing us to come on here talk Houston Texans football. Always a shout out to the man upstairs. And Harley, we're gonna give our round of applause to Team USA for what they did against the Canadian hockey team. Just absolute belt to ass 3-1. Now their game's coming up this Thursday. It's going to be in the USA though. Excited for that. I didn't realize there was so much drama over the weekend.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either, but that was fun. The Four Nations event is what it's called. It's basically replaced their All Star game, and all I need to say is I need every sports whatever to make that their All Star game from now
There was
on.
hatred.
I need a USA versus the World Pro Bowl. Like I need that. I need a US something like I that's what I need. USA versus the World basketball game. Like that's what I need. That's exactly what we need. Screw an all-star game. Oh, cool. You got selected. Fine. Now we're playing USA versus the world. Whether you got selected or not, you're going to be in this game. That'd be a lot of fun. It was highly entertaining.
Yeah, hockey got it right. Hockey got it right. Um, we are not even well. We're a couple of weeks away from free agency, Harley. Less than a month though. So the Houston Texans, they are probably building their free agency wish list, and we're gonna do the same thing today. Now that we have an offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, we kind of have a idea of maybe what type of players he would want to bring here to the Houston Texans, right? Similar to, his time at the Los Angeles Rams just last season as the pass games coordinator and tight end coach.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. Should be
Mm.
fun to get into the offseason, get into free agency, try to delve into the mind of what D'Amico and Nick Caley are really going to be looking at.
Mhm.
We had Nick Caley uh, talk about. Well, we didn't have D'Amico talk about free agency, even though it was asked. He said, "No, we're not going to answer that question." Basically, Nick Caley, did his smart, tough, and unselfish
Mm.
players. Maybe not in that order, but it was those three words for sure. Um, so I think it was smart, unselfish, and tough players.
Mm.
So I mean, obviously we're gonna make fun of the acronym as much as we want to when it comes here to Houston and the history that we have around some of those adjectives. But ultimately, you're looking for players that are smart and you look for players that are tough and you
Mhm.
do look for players that are unselfish. So, and I think that unselfishness plays into Nick Caley's ultimate plan when it comes to blocking because as we've seen the LA Rams continuously have wide receivers block
Mhm.
for them with the will to block. And that's not only going to be at the wide receiver position, but as well as the tight end position, as well as the halfback position. Like he mentioned, the halfback by position out in the introductory
Mhm.
press conference. So yeah, super exciting to get into this.
Now, are the Houston Texans focusing everything on the offense or everything on the defense? I'm going to say 70% of our resources this offseason need to be to bolstering the Houston Texan offense. The O line, I mean, we need to revamp it. You might have, two starters next season. Definitely need some skill position guys, some depth guys. I think the defense, man, outside of making Derek Stingley the highest paid cornerback in the NFL this offseason, there's not a lot left for them to do on the defensive side. I mean, maybe just figure out what they're going to do at the defensive tackle position, but everywhere else, man, the Houston Texans, they got their starters and they got some, some quality backups.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. There ain't nothing much on the defensive side that, yeah, you could find if you maybe some depth pieces or something, or, if you see something out there that maybe you find interesting to add to this defense, then sure, I don't mind it. Besides bringing back their own guys, I would love them for them to bring back Mario Edwards and Foley Fatukasi and, those two specifically at the DT position played very well for you last year. So depending on it, they shouldn't be asking for a lot of money. So the Texans could be adding back, re-signing their depth pieces would be something I would think that they value very highly. But yeah, I agree with you. There's not much defensively that you can. What else can you add? I mean, it was pretty damn good last year.
Yeah, and you were without Jalen Petrie, you were
Mm.
without Christian Harris, and starters all over the defensive side missed some significant time. I mean, as well as the offense, but I'm saying as far as the defense this offseason, um, it doesn't need the full attention of the Houston Texans. What does is the O? Because it was disappointing. We thought heading into 2024, the calling card for the Houston Texans was going to be this passing attack. CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So I have one name here, Harley, that I want to ask you now. We've seen him in a Houston Texans uniform before, and that is Mr. DeAndre Hopkins. A lot of fans have been asking, how would you feel if there is a reunion between the Houston Texans and DeAndre? Now, I think the first thing that's going to have to be decided is whether or not he gets back number 10. Currently, backup quarterback Davis Mills has that, but DeAndre Hopkins, 30, I believe 32, 33
Yes,
years of
32 years
age,
old right now. It looks.
free agent. There were some
Mhm.
rumors about him potentially retiring, but he quickly shot those down. What are your thoughts on DeAndre Hopkins potentially being a Houston Texan in 2025?
Two catches, 18 yards in the Super Bowl.
Mm,
That's not DeAndre Hopkins.
no.
I know for damn sure somebody that's been wanting to play in the Super Bowl for his entire career had his first appearance in the Super Bowl, and you decided to go out there and drop two catches, 18 yards, in what was a crucial drop in a Chiefs Eagles, where
Hmm.
the Chiefs were just trying to muster up something on the comeback, and you dropped what would have been a really long gain for your team. I look at it and I'm going, okay, he had altogether he had 56 catches for
Hmm.
610 yards. Like that's what he had last year in total between both teams, the Titans and the Chiefs. That is a career low. Like
Yeah.
it is his second lowest receiving yard since I want to say 2021, and
Hmm.
he had like 570 then. So that wasn't very good to see from DeAndre Hopkins. It makes me wonder whether or not how much left does he have in the tank. I
Facts.
don't question his ability to play the wide receiver position. I question the ability to play it at a high level again.
Mm.
And if he's fallen back to just a average to good receiver, then yeah, sure. He's obviously, if you signed him, your second best wide receiver, but then that's a very low bar.
Hmm.
Hopkins, I don't know how much else he brings to the table. And ultimately, your question is whether or not I would want to bring him back to Houston. I say no. I think you can find elsewhere besides in the wide receiver market. And there's plenty of other guys that are out there that I'd rather take a chance on than DeAndre Hopkins.
I'm just ready for that suspicious tweet or suspicious where it's going to be him in a Houston Texans uniform, right? DeAndre Hopkins loves to get Houston media all riled up, but I'm on the same page. I am I have no will ill to DeAndre Hopkins. I wish him the very best, but I'm looking for something else. I'm looking for speed. I'm looking for youth, and right now DeAndre Hopkins doesn't have either of these things. But I would say though, for someone like DeAndre, the Houston Texans are a prime situation. You're not the number one guy anymore. That's number 12. That's Nico Collins. Can you be a number two? Have we ever seen DeAndre Hopkins as the number two guy? We haven't. But I don't want to find out, Harley. I don't want to find out at all. Another wide receiver I want to throw out there. Now, age, it's probably not there, but the speed definitely is. And that is Marquise Brown, who was
Mm.
recently a Kansas City Chiefs, missed majority of the year with a shoulder injury. So he should be healthy. Did some things against us in the postseason. Was kind of a no-show in the Super Bowl. But hey, the entire Kansas City offense was a no-show in the Super Bowl. I can't remember the last time the Houston Texans had a deep threat. Maybe that was Will Fuller, but he was just inconsistent, could not be healthy there on the field. I wouldn't mind a Marquise Brown. He won't cost the Houston Texans a lot whatsoever. And I think if you could get a Marquise Brown, you could get someone else also.
I'll tell you who your deep threat is on this team, and he's not going to be playing for you in 2025. That guy is Tank Dell. That guy is your deep threat.
Mm.
But Marquise Brown, I have no problem in adding. When you look at, and you're not adding him to be wide receiver two, you're adding him for depth at wide receiver. You could be losing Robert Woods as well this year, who is 31, 32 years old, or maybe 33. But when I look at Marquise Brown, I can confidently say, yeah, he's better than Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie. And so
Facts.
immediately I'm going, oh, okay, Hollywood Brown here in Houston. And like you're talking about, yes, I mentioned Tank Dell as a deep threat, but he's not going to be here for the
No.
majority of 2025, if not the whole year. So it's good to have somebody else that can go out there. And yes, there's some drop issues here and there, but the fear factor of just the ability to pop
Mhm.
open the top of the defense whenever he can, his ability with the ball in his hands, and that's what you're going to be able to do in this Rams is esque kind of offense, with Nick Haley. It's going to be a lot of bubble screens, going to be a lot of wide receiver screens. There's going
Mhm.
to be trying to get the ball out quickly into the hands of the receivers and have them make plays, something Nico Collins is very good at with the yak. Marquise Brown could be something similar and could be a good safety net option
Mhm.
for the Houston Texans. Shouldn't cost you too much money either.
No, that would excite me, but I will say, I want something more.
For sure.
And another wide receiver I want to throw out there. Now, I like this a lot, and that is Darius Slayton from the
Mm.
New York Giants. Now,
Mm.
Darius Slayton, there's nothing wrong with him. The only thing that has plagued him his career is horrible quarterback play. Now, he's 28, 29 years old. How much football, elite football, is left in Darius Slayton? I think this will be a great opportunity for him to, make some impact in this league. CJ Stroud will probably be the best quarterback he's played with, in his
Sure.
career. So who knows what type of production we could see from a Darius Slayton, but he has 4 seasons with 700 plus yards. And I think he would complement Nico Collins well. And maybe Darius Slayton's best football days are ahead of him if he is a Houston Texan in 2025. I would love this.
Yeah, I would have to do more on Darius Slayton, but I know his rookie year was 2019. I'm not sure if Odell Beckham was still on the Giants and if it was still the same Odell Beckham. Because if it is, you're looking at a guy in his rookie year that had 740 yards and 8 touchdowns. And that is somebody that paired with a legitimate number one in Odell Beckham, you can have that same pairing similar to him and Nico
Mhm.
Collins. And even though I don't want him as a wide receiver too, I think you could be low risk, high reward kind of situation here for Darius Slayton, especially if he looked into his career and goes, man, I can finally play with a real time quarterback in CJ Stroud and go, yeah, I don't mind this. I can do
Mhm.
this. And he can also show to the rest of the NFL world that, hey, I can play the wide receiver position. I've just been plagued by horrible quarterback play. Now I'm here with CJ. I
Mhm.
could definitely see Darius Slayton go, yeah, let me come over here on a 1 year deal. Let me get a prove it deal. Let me see and let me showcase to the world that yeah, I can go for more than 770 yards receiving, which is his career high in the NFL. Maybe he can potentially reach 850 plus receiving yards, maybe,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't mind it. Young, still young-ish. Again, another cheaper kind of option, and I feel like this is kind of the way to go with the Texans in the wide receiver market. Is you have so many needs offensively, specifically the O line. Like I feel
Mm.
like you could bargain bin a little bit at the wide receiver position, and maybe get both a Marquise Brown and a Darius Slayton, who both pose different kind of skill sets at the wide receiver position, but both ultimately can help this team get to where they need to offensively, and Nick Caley. And so I'm curious about it. I like it. I would like to see, I have to do more research
Mhm.
on Slayton. I'd like to see whether or not he's a good blocker or not, because I know he has some good size to him. But yeah, I don't mind this at all. I mean, you're looking at 6'1", 200. So yeah, I don't mind it.
Do you remember the name Will Hernandez?
Wow, guard.
We
Uh,
talked about him a couple years ago.
Yeah, from one of the Texas schools here. I forgot. I think it was University of Texas San Antonio.
Mm.
Think so. I think it was UTSA.
He is a free agent this year, coming
Uh
off
huh.
a knee injury that he suffered in week
He still got
5.
injuries, man.
Yeah, man. I think what this offensive line do, you just can't afford things like that. Like what the offense, it's important that you have everyone healthy. I'm tired of the past 2 seasons in the playoffs only having Nico Collins out there for CJ Stroud to throw to. Like
Yeah.
health has just plagued the Houston Texans over the past 2 seasons. Let me ask you about what if they do spend some money this season? Now,
Hmm.
of course, the Houston Texans will have to make something work. But what
For
if they
sure.
went out there and got the best guard in Trey Smith out of the Kansas City Chiefs? Now, will it happen? Probably not. Trey Smith is the best available guard on the market. He will be one of the highest paid, in my opinion. If you
Yeah.
do value the offensive line, if you do value quarterback CJ Stroud, I don't think anyone should be, out of the question. With Trey Smith, it is exciting, man. It just looks like the price tag might be too big for the Houston Texans.
He's 25, 26 years old.
Mhm.
He was a 6 round pick for the Chiefs, man.
Hell
I
yeah.
mean, that how great is that? You get a 6 round pick to immediately come in and play damn good football for you. He's a better run blocker than he is pass blocker. But I do not mind it. But ultimately, like you said, like in order to pay Trey Smith, you have to create a lot of cap
Mhm.
space and restructure some contracts in order to at least give them anywhere in ballpark range between 20 to 25 million a year.
Yeah.
And that is obviously he is worth the money because he's at the market at the right time. When you're the best offensive lineman and or the best guard free agent on the market, then yeah, you're gonna get the top dollar, and he deserves every penny of it. He plays extremely well. Yes, he would fill in that hole for the Houston Texans. Yes, I would love to have him. But when you think about it, this Texans team has so many holes
Mm.
offensively that I feel like you're allocating so much money into one spot at the guard position. And that's ultimately long term going to set you up in some pretty bad situations when you go up against the cap, when you have to pay guys like Derek Stingley, Will
Mhm.
Anderson, CJ Stroud. Like, that's going to be a little problematic for the future. You're just kind of delaying the inevitable at that point. If you did go and get a Trey Smith, maybe you kind of spend some money and again bargain bin at wide receiver, and
Mhm.
maybe it's really dependent on what Cole Popovich and Nick Haley are going to be looking at for offensive linemen. I don't mind the Will Hernandez option, like you mentioned, but whenever we talked about him last time, it was injuries
Yeah.
and just not playing up to his potential. And now, yeah, he's played better, but he still has the injury factor, and that's the last thing you need is a backup guard. And let's say Kendrick Green out there in the playoffs, and that's not what you want because you might have the same
Mhm.
duplicate performance from the O line like you did this year.
What would a Zach Martin do for you? Now, Zach Martin, 34 years old. He only played in 10 games this year. Like retirement is just, just three knocks away.
Yeah.
What could Zach Martin potentially do for this Houston Texan offensive line? To be honest, if you ask me, I think it could set a standard. Zach Martin knows exactly what it takes to be behind a good offensive line. And there hasn't really been a veteran on the O line. I know Tunsil is considered that
Mm.
veteran, but when you talk about leadership qualities, I look at someone like a Zach Martin. I think he could easily, command the locker room and easily be a leader on this team. But 34 years of age, once again, we're talking about someone who's coming off of an injury. It would be very it probably would just be 1 year if you did get it done.
Yeah, and that's not a bad idea because it's only a 1 or maybe even a 2 year deal with Zach Martin. You're looking at a guy that's potentially a future Hall of Famer. I mean, 7-time first team All Pro, 9-time Pro Bowlers,
Mhm.
2-time second team All Pro. Zach Martin has been there and done that, and he has arguably been the best guard for the majority of his career with the Dallas Cowboys. I remember so many years ago when we drafted Nick Martin, and we thought
Mm.
maybe we were going to get similar luck to Zach Martin, and it just did not happen. But hey, luckily he took that whole gym set with him in his career. So Zach Martin, I think it's a fabulous idea considering the long term effect of the salary
Mhm.
cap, and like the guys I mentioned, Derek Stingley should be somebody you pay this offseason. And then you will enter those discussions next year in the offseason when it comes to CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. So, yeah, this isn't a bad idea. I don't mind it. You're getting somebody he's going to play his tail off
Mhm.
for this team. He stays in Texas. There's no state tax. The Cowboys are in disarray right now. When aren't they?
Mhm.
But especially right now, like they're coming off a really bad year. You don't know what to expect. There's so many circuses going on over there. You just don't know where to act. You can come here to Houston. Dalton Schultz, former Cowboy, already has a connection with Zach Martin, can maybe sway him
Yeah.
over here to Houston. So, those are little things that we can look at. And I would not mind this at all. Cole Popovich, Nick Haley, get another really badass guard to come in here and, like you said, man, add another veteran to the group. That would have been Shaq Mason, but
Mm.
Shaq Mason just didn't play well last year, and he looked like he fell off. So him, Tunsil, and then you have Blake Fisher, who very helpful. You get a veteran right guard to play with your second year right tackle right next to him. And who better than to Blake Fisher to learn
Mhm.
from? Besides Laramie Tunsil, you're going to have Zach Martin. I mean, that's very helpful for his development as a right tackle. So, yeah, I would like this move a lot.
Mhm. Do the Houston Texans need to be looking at a center, Harley? The reason why I asked that because over the past couple of seasons, like we've had many centers. This year we had two. Jared Patterson, Juice Scruggs. Last year you had three. Juice Scruggs, Jared Patterson, Michael Dieter. I don't know who was the center in Davis Mills's last year
Um,
as starter for the Houston Texans. Who was that?
well, it was supposed to be the Seahawks guy who ended up retiring for you. I forgot who filled in
His last
for
name was
him.
Britt.
Yeah, Justin Britt.
Justin Britt.
But he wasn't there for the second year of it because he retired. So stupid. Um, you had Scott Quisenberry. That's who it was.
Mhm.
Horrible.
The reason why I bring that up is because there are some free agent centers this offseason that I may look at bringing in. What would a Ryan Kelly do for you, Harley, from the Indianapolis Colts? A veteran at his position. Once again, I think he could come in, command his group, command the locker room, be a veteran in there, and still have the fire under him of I've never won the AFC South in the division. I want to be on a winning team, and this could be the last couple of years where we get some solid play out of Ryan Kelly. But I think center is something that a lot of Houston Texans fans haven't talked about.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. I do. Ryan Kelly, former with the Indianapolis Colts, knows the Texans very well. So Cole Popovich, along with Nick Caley, it's an interesting idea. I don't mind the
Mm-hmm.
idea. I also think that the Texans have a lot of thought in place when it comes to Juice Scruggs.
Mm,
And I think ultimately, Cole Popovich has worked with Juice Scruggs last year, and he worked with him this year as well too. So he knows him for 2 years. You are going to find out whether or not they want to work with him and retool what he can do with the right coaching. Maybe he becomes the center of the future for the
mm,
Houston Texans. 2 years ago, his rookie year, he didn't play a lot due to injury, but when he did play, you saw some solid play from him in his short term time here as a rookie. But then this last year, it just wasn't so good for him,
wasn't good.
where you saw better play from him, improved play, I'll say, at the guard position. It wasn't necessarily great. But I mean, it's an interesting idea. I understand that, center is something that this team would need to like take a look at. I get
Mm,
that, but I just think they have more faith in Juice Scruggs because they're gonna have guys that with the right coaching they think. I mean, you heard Nick Casario talk about it at the podium just this last year. When Scruggs was playing at guard, he talked about that he could be that he still believes he's a better center. Now, ultimately, D'Amico Ryans is the guy that's going to be controlling this roster,
mhm.
in where he wants players to play. But I still think that that's ultimately what they're going to be going towards is Juice Scruggs rather than Ryan Kelly.
I could see that too. I mean, the only thing I think going for Juice Scruggs in this argument is the youth factor. And you hope that now that Cole Popovich is leading this offensive line, maybe, he becomes a player that we thought he could potentially be. You also don't want to give up on a second round pick. I can't wait to continue, doing a deeper dive on this list, Harley, because I hope the Houston Texans are in all in. I hope they're trying to bring as much talent to the offensive side as they can. Like we mentioned, we don't think the defense really needs to be touched at all. Would a Justin Simmons excite you? We talked
Yeah,
about it a
that's
lot
interesting.
last year. It's just I'm done with the Jimmy Ward experiment.
I understand that, but they gave him an extension, my
I
guy,
know.
and they are going to keep Jimmy Ward there. I don't mind Justin Simmons. I like the idea. But you're gonna have Jimmy Ward, you're gonna have Jalen Petrie back in his original spot, and then the advancement and development of Kalen Bullock going into year two is something that I am very intrigued by
Mhm.
because with the right coaching, with the right development, you're looking at Kalen Bullock to potentially have a let me let the rest of the NFL know who I am kind of
Mm.
year. And even though he had statistically a hell of a rookie year, but when you really look into it, you're going, okay, Kalen Bullock still has to get better at angles when it comes to tackles, but he is very instinctive compared to Justin Simmons, who I love. I like Justin Simmons a lot. He played well for the Falcons up in age. I think ultimately that's not where they would go,
Mm.
So especially considering his age, you already got a young safety there. You got Petrie, you got Jimmy Ward. They can potentially bring back Eric Murray, who is a free agent, I want to say. MJ Stewart is also a free agent. Both guys, more so Murray, have played very well in their limited roles here. Murray played a big time role here last year for you. So, and then to go back to your center conversation real quick, the Rams they drafted Bo Limmer, and he was a rookie center.
Mm.
And this was last year. Nick Caley came from the Rams. Um, who knows? They grabbed themselves a young center to move forward with. I don't know if the Texans do the similar stuff. Again, they're going to look at Juice Scruggs or the draft. I don't see them going free agency for center.
Mm. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for us today. We want to thank you for everyone who was a part of this, and hopefully, when you watch this back, we put some great ideas in that head. With that being said, we will see you guys on Wednesday. Hopefully, we find out whether or not this Houston Texans offensive coaching staff is complete or not. That was Harley. I am Ruben. Guys, we'll see you on Wednesday. Have a very blessed rest of your day.